Okay, hold on. I have to warn the other people in this house about what's about to happen, so give me a second. Hello and welcome to Winging It. I am Sammy Cowell. This is my co-host Frank, and we also have a special guest with us here today on our Halloween episode. Get it?
What's the owl's name?
I don't have a name yet, and maybe that's something our listeners can help us with. Help me come up with a name for my little owl. Look, he can turn his head too.
Very appropriate. How many degrees though?
He can go all the way around, baby.
Oh, okay. Well, that's clearly not realistic, but it's cute anyway.
360. So, yes, but this is a special Halloween episode. We're going to talk about owls, talk about some fun facts about owls, where to find owls, share some of our own owling stories. Frank actually did a talk yesterday about, well, all sorts of Halloween birds, but he talked about owls. You told me you had a very common question pop up there.
Yeah. The question is always, I mean, anytime you talk about owls, people want to know where can I find owls, right? And there's always like, as birders, I think we feel a little conflicted about it because it's like, yeah, we want people to see owls and enjoy owls, but also we don't want them to see them too much, right? Because we know that kind of stuff can happen and they can get disturbed pretty easily. So I think it'd be good to talk about some general tips on how to find owls, where people can look without giving them exact directions, because we don't want that. But yeah, people always want to know where to find them, how to, and less so how to attract them, because I don't think they want to deal with the mess. But, put up a barn owl box and you're good to go.
Yes, yes. Well, let's just dive right into it. Where do you find owls? What would you say to people, Frank, or what did you say yesterday to your folks?
I mean, I will usually recommend, you're going to find them in trees, right? So barn owls tend to roost in palm trees out here in palm trees or barns. Always check barns. Great horns are probably the easiest ones to find just because they're the largest and you can see them in the day sometimes. And the spaces that they need to nest are fairly large. So narrows it down quite a bit. You're going to need bigger trees or holes in trees or something that can support an owl of that size. The smaller guys, they are tough, right? You need to know somebody who knows the spot or something like that. But in general, you want to try the away from people spaces. You want to get into the forests that are far enough away from people that they're not going to be disturbed. There's not a lot of traffic. So it gets kind of hard to find some of those other ones, but a lot of them are going to be by ear. You're going to find the pygmy owls doing their little toot calls, and
Toot,
that's
toot, toot.
not satisfying if you want to get good pictures of them, but it still can get you close. And then you can kind of learn their habits and maybe find out where they are after a little time. What about you? What do you tell people when they say, Sammy, take me on an owling trip? I want to see all the owls. No pressure.
Yeah, I guess I would say, well, depends on the species for one. Some owls, and maybe a misconception, not all owls are nocturnal. Some are more diurnal, like our burrowing owls. So, and you're not going to find them in trees like their name suggests. You're going to find them on the ground in used like ground squirrel or prairie dog burrows. So, I think it depends on the species. Some species are more range restricted and are here at certain times of the year, not here at other times, like the flammulated owls. They come up here more in the summer. But if you're thinking kind of your classics, I feel like the two classics, no matter where you are in the States, are barn owls and gray horned owls. So like you said, barn owls, they love to, yeah, hang out in palm trees. I remember actually, um, we were hanging out at my friend's place down in SoCal, and they have a couple palm trees that the barn owls would. I don't know if they had a nest there. I can't remember if they did or not, but they definitely were around. And we were hanging out outside, and the barn owl was calling and fly around, and then it actually flew over probably I would say 15 feet above us, very low to the ground, and actually pooped on us. I got covered in barn owl poop. So sometimes
Wow.
the owl finds you.
That has to mean something. That's pretty significant.
But actually, yeah. So I don't think I told this to you, but I actually had an owl last night at about 9 o'clock. He was literally just right outside the house. So, I think part of it is listening, like you mentioned. That's how you find
Yeah.
most owls, since they're active. At least the nocturnal species are active at night. You're going to hear them much more quickly than you're going to see them. So yeah, if you're in a space that has good habitat for owls, has some trees for them to roost and call from, and places where they can nest. Just go outside and listen, especially kind of, at least here in California, they're going to start calling a little more frequently. Owls start nesting earlier in the season than most other birds. January and February. Again, it kind of depends on where you're at. So that, I think really what I would say is comes down to the species and knowing a bit of the natural history. If it is a nocturnal species, yeah, just be out at night and listen, and then you'll definitely increases your chances of finding one.
Pretty much. Yeah. I am always surprised. Where I live, there's some trees in the distance, but there's not a lot. It's not like, being from New Jersey where there was trees everywhere. It's nothing like that. And yet there are still great horned owls calling out here almost every night when you're screeching or the hooting. And it's just like they've really adapted pretty well to be able to
Mm-hmm.
survive in an environment like this. They just need a place to put a nest and then just figure the rest of it out. So it's a pretty hard. I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
All
I
right.
think that, and you also brought up another point of how do you handle seeing owls, or if you find an owl and someone else wants to see it, because they are a more sensitive species just by the nature of them being nocturnal,
Yeah.
right? You can kind of think of, you got your diurnal birds, and it's easy to see them and just kind of observe them and not disturb them because they're there and you can easily see them. You don't need to do anything else. You just watch them. Boom, there you go. But for now, obviously, we are not nocturnal. So if we want to see them, we need a little extra help with lighting or things like that. But then they're nocturnal, and so they're adapted to not be in really high lighting. So how do you handle that tension? Because these birds have senses that are just kind of cranked up to 100, both their sight
Mhm.
and their hearing. So they can be very sensitive species, but also they are very, in my opinion, I think a lot of people's opinions, very alluring or very just kind of intriguing species. So there is that tension, I feel like, of how do you view the owls, but how do you not disturb them, especially because they are a particularly sensitive species. And it's always tricky to figure out.
It is. It's definitely you walk a fine line with it, especially if you find where they roost during the day, because
Mm-hmm.
that tends to be a time where if they get disturbed too often in that, then they're going to roost somewhere else, and then they're gone, right? Uh, that happened out here with some long-eared owls. It seems to happen with the long-eared owls every time anybody finds any, and it's like once word gets out or somebody posts about it somewhere, people start filing out there to get pictures and go take a look at them, and within a couple of days they're usually gone. They move out of the way. So it's kind of disappointing. I'd say, like, with the great horned owls, I don't really worry about them too much because they're pretty, they're like apex predators. They'll attack you if anything. So don't worry about it. They're, go ahead, bother them all you want. You get what you deserve at that level. But with the other ones, yeah, like some people will try to play out, tape, play the thing. We call it tape. Nobody's played tape in decades, but on your phone, right? You play the owl
Yeah,
song and you
playback.
try and get it to call out or come out. And, I've heard stories of people doing this, and the owl comes out and immediately gets mobbed. The crows dive on it, jays dive on it. Like the daytime birds don't like owls. You do not want to have them. They're trying to hide. Don't call them out. Don't draw attention to them because they will get attacked, and sometimes they get pretty seriously injured. So you kind of want to keep that in mind too.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. If you know where it is roosting and or nesting, places where they are very, like roosting, obviously they're trying to sleep. Nesting, obviously they have young ones. Places where they're very vulnerable, I would not, publicize that. If you want to share that with people that you know and that you would say, hey, found this cool spot, let me take you, or that you trust, that's one thing. But I think just putting it on a, especially in the days of eBird and the internet, put it on a big forum, that can be a lot more dicey proposition because you may not know who would come there and if they share your same ethics,
Yes.
and you're kind of letting the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, yeah. It's there's like the ongoing thing between birders and photographers, right? If photographers get out there, then they don't have the same ethics as the birders, right? And they just tromp through everything and get the picture and leave no matter what happens. Yeah, obviously they're not all like that, but that's kind of the thing that we don't really talk about. This like
The
ongoing
stereotypes,
struggle.
yeah.
Yeah, it's annoying. But yeah, so be careful with the
Yeah,
owl.
I think a general rule of thumb is if you are doing something that disturbs the bird, particularly when it's roosting or nesting, or even when it's just, doing its thing, then you should stop whatever you're doing. A couple of things I was, preparing for this, a couple of signs that you can look for disturbed. One, if the owl is looking straight at you, right, then obviously it's noticing you and you're having an impact on it. And if it's looking around, getting ready to fly, or looking like it's trying to escape, that's going to be something maybe you're too close. So I think that's another thing. If you see an owl and you do want to see it, like better with a flashlight or something, don't flash it, don't come up to it and flash it straight in its eyes.
Blinded, yeah.
I think just think about your eyes, and if someone did that to you, and then make your eyes 100 times more sensitive to light, and and then think about how that's going to impact you. So I actually read they've done some research that says it can take anywhere from a minute to even 5 minutes for owls to regain their night vision after being
Oh my
exposed to.
gosh.
Yeah. So like if I take people out, you can use things like infrared lights or infrared binoculars. I'm assuming most normal people don't have those. If you do want to shine a light on the bird, keep it very dim and keep it at its feet.
Mhm.
Just don't shine a bright light at the bird. And I think really ideal if you want to get good photographs of a bird, um, I would say try to use any natural light as possible. So if it's a very bright moonlit night, or if you're out at dusk, right? There's still some light at dusk.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you have a bird perched up right there, then, just leave your shutter speed open a little bit longer. We have lots of, post processing things you can do now. So I would say just if you are impacting the bird's behavior, then whatever you're doing, stop doing that.
Good advice for all birds, I think, and
For
especially
all
owls.
birds, yes, for all birds. But yeah, especially owls. Because I think too, they are just fascinating and beautiful creatures. Even just their eyes alone, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I was reading in preparation for this, their eye weight is about 5% of their body weight is in their eyes, compared to us is 0.0003%.
Well, okay.
So
Big eyes.
keep that in mind. And with some species like saw-whet owls, I actually saw photos of this. You can look through their ears, and their eyes are so big that if you look through basically their kind of the ear holes that go to their ears, you can also see their eye, basically right next to that because they're so yeah. It's pretty.
Okay. So they're just like flying eyeballs with teeth and claws or beaks and claws. That's what you're getting at. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and not only flying eyeballs, but I mean, their hearing is impeccable.
Right. Yeah. I always love watching the footage of like the snowy owls and the great gray owls where they're just like
Yes.
pouncing on a mouse that's like a foot in the snow and that kind of stuff. Just like, what? They can hear the mouse under the snow. It's insane. I love that.
Yes, I remember we were at Saxon Bog last December and we watched this great gray owl and yeah, it just plunged into the snow and I got a great shot of it. But it's just like yeah, and it came out with a vole and it's really just they're just stunning creatures, really quite
Yeah.
beautiful. And this is one thing. So I teach physiology, and when we get to like our sensory system, we talk about ears. And so then I ask them to close their eyes, and I walk around the classroom and like snap my fingers or whatever. I ask them to like follow me with my fingers, and you can do that. That's no problem, right? And we use that to talk about like, oh, right, when the sound hits this ear first, and then this ear, there's a slight difference in time and also in intensity, and your brain can decode that. So then you can be like, oh, it's coming from that side. And then I will also mention that a lot of owl species actually have their ears at slightly different levels, which I think is super cool. But then that just allows them to pinpoint up and down even
Love it.
all the more accurately.
Just more proof that we were not meant to fly, or at least not meant to hunt.
Hunt at night.
Yeah. From elevation. Fair enough. It's a lot of adaptations that they have. That's pretty cool. I don't know if I don't know if I told you this, but like, owls are kind of like, they have this aura of being scary and like kind of spooky because, they're at night and make weird noises. I actually had owls at my wedding. There was like a local raptor
Oh,
center who brought owls and they were at the reception. I originally wanted a barn owl to fly the ring down the aisle to the best man to do that, but he's terrified of birds and it was not feasible at all, but it was a fun fantasy for a minute. So yeah,
sounds like you
there
need to
were
get a new
owls.
best man then.
Hey, maybe next time we'll see. So we had these
I
owls and it was
volunteer as
great.
tribute.
And later, some folks came up and were like, "Well, why did you have owls at the wedding?" It's like, birders and supporting the local raptor center. And they're like, "Well, that's like a symbol of death, right?" It's like, oh
Yes, yes.
no, I did not. So that was a little iffy at the time, but it was fine, it worked out. But it kind of made me think about, especially the barn owl, because if you look
Mm,
across different cultures, it's like, in Greek, it's like wisdom and knowledge, and then it's
hmm
like death and foreboding and ill omen, and then it's good luck, and it's like all over the board what these birds mean in terms of like seeing them. I don't know what it means if it poops on you, but that's a whole separate thing. But and during the talk, I always talk about the barn owls and kind of the scream that they do that sounds like a woman screaming. So what I was saying, you've got these like pale owls that like fly around at night and haunt abandoned buildings, and they scream. That sounds like a woman screaming, right? What the funny thing is, this is probably the origin or the inspiration for the myth of the banshee way back in
ah,
Ireland, so many odd centuries ago. Just imagine walking by like this old stone building that's not in use anymore and hearing this woman scream and then seeing this
yeah.
pale ghostly figure fly out. And I just love that the barn owl is like so widespread and that it has like influenced legends and done all of this awesome stuff. And when you see them, like the first one of the first barn owls that I saw and like had a weird connection with was at Kenyatta Largo Road. I was just driving down at dusk and it was on a fence post. And I just like pulled the car up and stopped. I was like 10 feet away. And it just turned and looked at
Oh,
me. And it was like such an eerie feeling. Those big black eyes. And it was just like,
yeah.
I kind of want to roll the window up. I don't know why. It's really cool. It's really pretty, but I also feel a little threatened. So I kind of get it. I kind of get the confusion where it's like it's a good sign, it's a bad sign. It's like this haunting figure. They have this kind of there's this weird impact about them. Just I think from what we've built up in our heads, talking about them all the
Mm.
time. Them being in everything is scary. Every scary woods has like a barred owl calling in it or something,
Yeah.
and it's just this deep association. Yeah, it's really. I love owls for that. The only one that this like doesn't really happen for is the burrowing owl because they're just so goofy. They're just like
I know.
tiny and in a hole and angry, and it's just like, all right, you're kind of an owl, but you're also kind of not. Like, where's the spookiness? What are you doing?
They are so funny. Yeah, there's some great barn owl. If you want to look up some great burrowing owl, excuse me, great burrowing owl, little like kind of photos
Yeah,
of them like tilting their heads to the side.
because every family of birds has that one weird one that's just kind of like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, like it doesn't come out at night. Doesn't nest in trees. It's just like what are you
Right.
even a part of?
It's like a chipmunk with wings or something.
It?
Ah,
Yeah, they're definitely one of my favorite owls. But I think for me, one of my favorites are saw-whet owls. So I saw my first saw-whet owl when I lived in Utah. Someone had reported one, and so I went down to there and I heard it calling. This was in February in Utah, northern Utah, so snow everywhere. And I heard it calling across the creek, and I was like, "Oh, cool." I was like, "I really want to try to see this bird," but there's like, you know, 150 feet of snow between and a creek between me and this bird. And so naturally, I went through the snow. I crossed the creek.
oh my gosh.
The snow is probably honestly about 2 feet deep. And at one point, I crossed the creek, and of course, it's night. It's dark. I have no idea where I am. I'm just trying to follow the sounds of the owl.
Were you by yourself?
I was by myself. Yes.
Okay, just checking. This is one of those don't do what Sammy did stories, isn't
Yes,
it?
there's many stories like this. And at one point, I'm just like, I'm over in a bush because like I don't know where I'm going. There's just so much snows, and then I'm just like, oh, I think I'm actually like physically crawling on top of a bush right now. It's just covered in snow. But eventually, I found the owl and I saw him, and he was amazing. So I was like, worth it. But that
Nice.
was my saw wet owl first saw wet owl experience.
It was a good one. I think mine was up in Northern California. I saw on a listserv somebody had reported like a nesting hole, nesting cavity. And so I went up to the trails and like the tree was not far off the trail. And unfortunately, you could see footsteps in the grass leading all the way up to the tree. So, people were like trafficking up to
Uh,
the hole and stuff. So I stayed out on the trail and waited. And sure enough, two little heads popped up and were like looking out the hole. And it was so cute. I think it's the only ones I've ever seen. So they're very cool birds. I love the little
yeah.
eyebrows.
If you ever go to Arizona, I can't remember the name of his place, but he has elf owls nesting
Um,
in a utility pole in his backyard. And so he's got it all set up. You just come in, you sit there, at dusk they pop out, and then, yeah, they're just right there. It's amazing.
nice. That's I would love, I aspire to having that sort of a setup at some point where there's a rare bird constantly in my yard and I could just have birders come in and like, set up all kinds of feeders. I would love that. That might be my retirement goal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my
I've got
plan.
50
Entire
years.
southeast Arizona and just set up a hummingbird B&B.
Nice.
Just have it set up. My current goal, and I'm a little frustrated with myself because I think I jeopardized this last night. I really want an owl. I've heard both barn and great horned here, but I really want an owl to come to my bird bath and capture that on camera because the camera still runs at night in infrared. So he was right there last night, and then I opened the gate, and our gate squeaks against the concrete. It's too low, and so I scared
Uh,
him. I forgot to like get to kind of jimmy it and lift it up, and anyways, so I scared him off when I did that. I
come
was like,
back.
oh, darn.
It'll come back.
I hope so. I hope so.
I have some
Any other
friends in,
fun facts that you want to tell
Belfast.
people about owls, Frank?
They will go after your pet quail.
Yeah, oh,
That's
okay.
what
I
I was
mean,
going to
yeah, that
tell.
doesn't surprise me.
I have some friends up in Ohio who have like domestic quail just in a cage,
Yeah.
and they have a camera set up out there. And they showed me this video of a great horned owl that lands on the ground and walks around the cage and occasionally like jumps at the cage to try and get the quail inside. It was didn't succeed. Like the quail were just like mostly oblivious to the whole thing, which is ridiculous. But the seeing the owl walk around was very disturbing. I don't know why watching owls walk is weird, but they're very strange when they walk.
Yeah,
All
yeah. Actually,
legs.
some people were telling me today that they saw an owl, and then they saw it on the ground, and they just saw it take off running, and they're like, I never even seen that. I was like, oh yeah, I don't really know if I've seen that either, except for like burrowing owls. But they're like, yeah, no, it was a great
Yeah,
horned owl, and he just like took off running.
that is really funny. I love the videos where you see like people like have these owls in rehab centers or whatever, and they like hold up their feathers, and it's just like these really long, spindly legs that you didn't expect.
Yeah,
Where did
they
that
are long.
owls, man? They are weird.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest facts is how they're silent in flight.
Feathers,
If
yeah.
you ever, I mean, you can even listen to my bird bath footage, hear like the birds flying in and out, even like little birds, right? Their wings make sound as they move through the air. But the way that owls have their wings designed is they have these basically fringes on the edge of their wings, and so it disrupts the airflow, and so it basically creates this kind of small pocket of turbulence that basically doesn't create sound as they fly through. So there's some great videos out there of recordings of like a vulture flying across like in an aviary, for
Mhm.
example, and you hear it obviously, and then you hear an owl and it's just deathly silent, nothing.
So everything about them is different from other birds then, right? Like they're just like their own separate little weird things. It's fascinating.
It is. They are really are fascinating creatures, and I think it's important to just spread awareness of, like you mentioned, like they are in urban areas now, and
Yeah.
they're carnivores, and so a lot of the things that we don't want, they help handle, like rodents. So I think rodenticide is a big issue
Yeah.
with owls because a lot of poisons work. The mouse or rat eats it, then goes about doing its thing, and then dies a little bit later in its burrow. It's not killed right there in the spot. And
Yeah.
in the meantime, it could get caught. And then if you've ever had a dog get into some rat poison, I mean, you take that dog immediately to the vet and pump its stomach. An owl's no different. So I think that's one thing I do want people to be aware of is just owls do and are frequently, as we, move into more habitat and create more development for ourselves, owls are learning to adapt to that. And part of that is then also, we bring food and that food attracts rodents and owls like rodents. So if you are in an area, well, I think a lot of areas have owls, even if you don't realize it, but really try to mitigate your use of rodenticides or use some other pest abatement strategies if
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. I would, I run into this kind of stuff a lot with some rodents and stuff. I would avoid the rodenticide for sure, 100%. The sticky glue traps, don't do that because birds can step on it and get stuck out there. So there's really only a couple of options. Even the snap traps I don't recommend because sparrows and towhees run around on the ground and will sometimes go for that too. So
Mm-hmm.
you really have to be kind of selective with it. I think the electrical stuff tends to work best, or something that is there's devices out there that the rodents can get into, but birds won't. So that's kind of like your best option. The mass rodenticide, introducing that into the food chain is just a terrible solution. It affects everything in the area. So do not recommend. Nothing's better than raptors, owls, and hawks. Right? There was that study that was out here. Were you here for that? I think you might have been. They
I'm not
tested
sure.
on some of the berms, like the county berm areas. On one side, they did rodenticide. On the other side, or another section, they had perches and um, I don't think they did nesting boxes, but like perches for daytime and nighttime raptors. And they ran it for I don't know how long, but the efficacy of the raptors outperformed the rodenticide. So like the barn owls kill tons of rodents, and then the red tail hawks and stuff in the day. Just doing that was more effective in keeping the berm damage down than using all the rodenticide that they used on the other side. So it was actually the birds are better than rodenticide. It just takes patience, I guess.
And that makes sense. I mean, they have to kill to survive, so the rodenticide
Yeah,
doesn't. And that's also a
doesn't.
passive strategy, whereas you have active predators, and a barn owl hunting, especially with nestlings, is going to eat like at least four like rats a night.
It's an insane number. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a lot. They do a lot, which is why they're so susceptible to rodenticide. If one person in your neighborhood is putting out rodenticide, it's very likely that that's going to eventually get into the barn owls. Unfortunately,
Yeah, another thing to keep in mind, and this depends on where you live, but where I live, I'm kind of out in the country, and so there's this one spot where this barn owl is, and when I'm coming back at night, and it's like always the same time I'm coming back, and he's always flying across the road. Do be mindful of your speed, and especially if you're somewhere where you can't see terribly well, I would recommend putting on your brights, assuming there's no other cars around. It's
hmm
because those owls do like to swoop low over the roads, and I've heard many stories and seen many photos of owls, dead owls on the side of the
yeah,
road. So driving in at night, especially if you're in an open field, especially with barn owls, try to reduce your speed. Increase your brights if you can, just so you can see the bird and
yeah,
react before you run into it. Because I feel like also too, it just saves you the emotional trauma.
right. Oh my gosh, hitting! I've had literal nightmares about hitting birds with my car. Usually, it's like a rare bird. Like I can't remember what it was. There was some rare bird that was around, and I had a dream that I went to see it, and like it flew into my car and I killed it. And it was just this is a recurring thing. I've had this dream a
Oh my
handful of times
gosh.
with different birds. So that's an upsetting thing for me, obviously. I had heard with the barn owls, like there were these grain trucks that would drive by at night, and when they'd go by around turns, some of the grain would spill out onto the road, and then the rats and the mice would come out onto the road and eat it, and then the barn owls would go after them, and then you'd find a lot of dead barn owls at like these curves on highways. So I don't know how accurate that is, or if it's like a urban legend
Mm.
at this point, but there are a lot of dead barn owls along freeways out here. There's people that like count them on their way up to San Francisco or something. So definitely be careful if you're driving at night with barn owls coming across, and any owl.
Yeah, but yeah, if you do want to support owls, nest box and raptor perches are great. I remember when I was a kid, I erected a raptor perch with my dad in our backyard because we had a big field in our backyard. I mean, live next to like a 40-acre vacant lot. And we had hawks and owls use that thing all the time. It was so
Mhm.
cool to see. You just see them at night and you just see them silently go right up there. You can get nest boxes. You can build your own nest box. There's plans. I can put that in the description
Yeah.
from All About Birds or the nestwatch.org. So there's tons of different things you can do to attract them to your area or help them out. Owls are around more than you think. You just gotta look. Again, last night I was just working on one of my videos here, and even through my headphones, I could hear the owl calling outside. So you just gotta
Yeah.
pop open and listen.
They're around.
Again, this is, we are by no means covering everything else. There are plenty of
No.
things we have not covered. This is very just kind of a more fun Halloween themed episode. But yeah, so if you have questions, people put them in the comments. But anything else
Yeah.
you want to share here,
Look at
Frank,
you.
before we wrap up?
An owl's part too. No, I think I would just encourage people. Like, there's a fascination with owls and getting to see them. And when you're fortunate enough to get to see one, just appreciate it. Take that moment and just kind of understand how rare it can be to see some of these creatures sometimes, and how kind of majestic they are, and whether it's
Mm.
freaks you out a little bit or kind of makes you feel like it's a good omen, whichever way you fall on that, it could be both. Just appreciate the moment. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's always honest. That's just good life advice, Frank.
I try.
It should be you're not only Frank the bird guy, but Frank the sage, Frank the wise. There you go.
Frank the Wise, yeah. That's my halfling name, I guess. Frank the Wise. Didn't somebody asked about the head rotation? It's with the max
Someone did ask.
rotation.
That's true. Yes. So, like even when I demonstrated earlier in the beginning, owls can't rotate their heads 360 degrees, but they can go 270. So
Close.
here to here, and also then 90 degrees up and down. But I mean, which you think is pretty impressive. But also, this is because their eyes are so freaking huge. They can't actually, and a lot of bird eyes are like this. They can't actually move their eyes like we can side to side. They're just kind of locked in place. So for us, you can just look to the side. For a bird, it's got to turn its whole head. So that's why they have to have that kind of
It's good.
flexibility in vision rotation.
And I hope people watch this on YouTube so they get the live demonstration of you doing that.
Oh yeah, yeah. There'll probably be many more live demonstrations of many other things.
Well, that was a hoot.
That was a hoot and a half. All right. Yes. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email me birding with Sammy, or do you want to give your plug, Frank?
Yeah, sure. I've got my Patreon up and running with all my fun pictures and videos, including the recording of yesterday's Scary Birds talk at patreon.com/Frank the Bird Guy.
Yes. You can also join our Facebook page, Winging It with Frank and Sammy.
We have a
That's a
group.
public group. Yep. So yeah, just hop on, ask us some more questions, and we'll catch you in the next one.
I will see you next time.
Oh, bye. You're Norman would be so proud of you.
I know. I learned from the best.
All right. Bye, everybody.